Hey, I'm Lotti Pharriss Knowles, the writer-producer of Chastity Bites.
And I'm John Knowles, the director of Chastity Bites.
The inspiration was a couple of things for me as the writer. First of all, it was just being a huge horror nerd and loving so many classic horror movies and new ones too, but mainly my inspirations for this one were classics from Hammer to 70s and 80s slasher movies, and Elizabeth Bathory theme movies, of course, too, like Countess Dracula and Daughters of Darkness and those kind of great classics. And then, unfortunately, my other inspiration was also kind of like a depressed fugue during the George W. Bush administration and what was going on at the time, and kind of just having this thing coalesce of like, oh, Elizabeth Bathory and abstinence education, and unfortunately it has continued to be relevant because that movement is still alive and well in this country. So not so good for the country, but good for my movie at least, that after all these years it was still made sense. So.
But we also wanted to do something that was a real true feminist horror film where there wasn't the cliche of like the boyfriend had to rescue her at the end, or that there were always men around taking care of things. This is a very female-centric movie, which I don't think we've seen for quite a while, where women are so kick-ass throughout the entire movie. You know, they're trying to drive in the whole thing. So.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of I think the success and failure of a horror film is all dependent on tone. I think you've got to nail it just right, and I've really just kept working with the actors to make sure that we were getting the right tone across. It wasn't supposed to be slapstick, and it wasn't also supposed to be really gory. We had to find the nice kind of comfort zone in between those two to get a good horror comedy vibe from this thing. And mostly it was just about casting the right people. And then just stepping back and letting them do their thing, and they really got it, and they really dug into their characters, and they just ran with it, and I just had a blast just sitting there watching everyone do their thing. And then it was, with the budget in mind, you just have to be very careful how you shoot things to kind of hide the seams, but fortunately fake blood is relatively cheap, so we were free to kind of spread that around as much as possible.
Yeah, as much as we could.
Yeah. This was shot on Super 16. We really wanted to shoot on film before film is completely gone and it's disappeared from the landscape. More and more people are shooting on digital, but we really felt like we wanted that old school feel. We wanted to make this look like a Hammer film from the late 70s or early 80s. Lots of grain, lots of high contrast, a little dark. We shot with super high speed Fuji stock, and it gave us that great look, and then we color corrected it even to bleed some of the color out throughout the whole movie, because there's this whole thing, or this whole vibe that Liz, the villain, brings to the movie, where she makes everything dark and she makes it cold, and then we actually, in color correction, bled the color out of the film all the way up until the end, so that it was very, very, very high contrast and kind of drained of life until she had, spoiler alert, until she's gone at the end, and that was a conscious choice to kind of reinforce that, the colored scheme throughout the movie.
Yeah.
But it was really fun to shoot on film. I had shot on film before as a student, and made a couple of films on 16, and it has its give and take. Sometimes it's not, you can't watch it right away. It's a little annoying. You can't just throw it right into Final Cut when you're finished.
It's a little stressful shooting on film, because you don't know, as it turned out, and we didn't have the money to go back and do reshoots, if it didn't work out.
Right.
But that grain and that quality, it's true. It's
totally
worth it. Yeah. In the end, we're happy we did it. So I don't know if we do it again, but
I don't know if we do it again. At least not like this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, they will. Thank God. We're going to be debuting, I believe, November 2nd, so really, really soon, on iTunes and some other VOD platforms that we'll be announcing on our website and Facebook page, Twitter, et al. Very soon.
Yep.
Yeah, you can already pre-order it on iTunes. And then the DVD is supposed to be released in February, so you can check Amazon, hopefully Redbox and Walmart and some of the outlets. We hope will pick us up too. So we'll see. But definitely, it's and we're still doing some of the festival circuit through the end of this year too. So.
Definitely look for it on iTunes and computers and things, iPads.
Your various eye technologies.
Devices, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, it's both. I mean, this is our baby, so we're committed to doing what we can to promote it, get the word out, go to as many festivals as possible this year.
Make our money back.
Make our money back. It's very important. It's a full-time job. It's not like you just send this film off like it's a kid going to college and you never hear from it again. You have to be constantly promoting it.
Does that happen to children?
Sure it
does. You never hear from them again. It's like, you're 18, get out there.
I didn't call the house for a month.
Exactly.
But
drunk, who cares?
Yeah, but when you're an independent filmmaker, you're constantly selling and pitching your movie, even when it's already been released. A lot of times the social media campaign, the Facebook, the Twitter, that's on us, as it is. You don't have a big marketing push behind you from a studio, so you have to keep constantly selling and putting the word out. And that's advice I would give to any independent filmmaker. Don't ignore that, and especially don't ignore that until the end of the process. Start in the beginning. We were on Tumblr and all the social media sites well before we started shooting, and by now we've grown that audience. So it's time, before you even start shooting is the time to do that, not when you've wrapped it and you're already like putting it out.
Yeah, because it's a slow process.
Very.
When people don't know what this movie is, who you are, gathering followers on those social media outlets is slow, but it can be very rewarding. I mean, things like Twitter. I've actually made these great Twitter friends, as it were, most of whom I've never met in person, although at a couple of film festivals I have. Usually they're fellow horror geeks, and I just got started talking to them about my favorite horror movies on Twitter, and then we chime in that way. And now, hopefully, since we've been kind of chatting for a while about that, and they know, what I'm into, like maybe they'll be interested in checking out our movie too. So, but it's tough, when you don't have a big push. I mean, we have a wonderful publicist, Louis Tice, shout out, and he works his butt off too. But he's just one guy, and so for independent films like ours, word of mouth is really the best thing. So we hope, we build the first audience through social media and festivals and that sort of thing.
And hopefully people are hungry for more of what we bring to the table, what we can do, and they'll want to see the next movie after this, which we're working on some stuff right now. So we'll see.
Mine is a tie, I have to, because I can't separate. And they're different, but you can see the influences of both in Chastity Bites. One is the original John Carpenter's Halloween, and the other one is Hammer's The Vampire Lovers, which is one of the great lesbian vampire classics from the early 70s. So hot.
So, I of course have several as well. I'm also more of a science fiction person, so my favorite horror movie straddles that line, which is Alien. I still can't watch it alone in the house. I get too freaked out. I can't sleep. I gotta sleep on the couch with the cats. I can't. So that really freaks me out. But I do love vampire movies as well. I love a lot of the '70s stuff that we both appreciate. But my favorite vampire movie is probably Near Dark, which was completely under the radar when it came out. Now it's an established cult classic, but it's an amazing movie where they don't even say the word vampire. But it's really, really well done. Really cool.
Totally.